Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Brownies for Breakfast with me, April Federico. And this is a very rare instance in which I am actually recording because I actually got thrown into a not I shouldn't say thrown into because it's actually a huge blessing. I'm a teacher now. Yeah, I teach special ed, and honestly, it's the most rewarding experience I could ever have in my lifetime. It's like Elle Woods in Legally Blonde 2 in the beginning at her bridal shower when she says, "You know when you get that feeling after an amazing spin class where you just feel so good about yourselves?" Well, that's how I feel being a lawyer. I love it. And that's how I feel being a teacher. I love it. So anyway, a couple housekeeping items actually. I wanted to give you guys a fair warning that the podcast will actually be named In the Pink starting in a couple weeks or maybe even tomorrow, who knows, but I have open house tomorrow. Baby's first open house. um but either way, it's gonna be called In the Pink from now on just to go with my brand and that wellness does not have to suck, to put it bluntly, and this is the podcast that excuse me, where we really talk about what it really looks like to live your best life without numbing it away. And speaking of numbing it away, today's episode feels so surreal because as of September 2025, I am celebrating something that I wasn't sure I could pull off. Sorry. I have officially been sober for over a whole year and counting. That's over 365 days of no alcohol. And trust me, those days added up to way more than just no hangovers. God, I cannot speak tonight. They added up to a completely different life. And why I chose sobriety, I didn't get here overnight. I mean, there was a very loud and dramatic rock bottom moment where my mother had basically given me an intervention because I was just like completely losing it. And I was just not feeling myself. And it was basically death by a thousand tiny hangovers and death by a tiny thousand, uh, I shouldn't say tiny, more like huge anxiety attacks. Anxiety that spiked after every night of drinking, every bottle of wine that was consumed, every martini that was consumed. Weekends lost to recovery, work days lost to recovery, and this nagging feeling that alcohol was that was keeping me small, keeping me from showing up fully in my work, my relationships, and my purpose. So I asked myself the scary question: what would my life look like if I did not drink at all? And the truth is, I was terrified of the answer, but I was even more terrified of staying stuck. So, one of the things I actually did was I actually confided in my psychiatrist. And I told her, like, you're not going to love hearing this, but for the past 6 years, I have been indulging in alcohol and in an unhealthy way. And I know you're not going to like hearing this because I'm on medications, and I'm definitely not condoning drinking on medications at all. Don't do it. And the first 30 days were rough, mainly because I was encouragingly put on a medication called naltrexone. And I mean, social situations, they didn't feel awkward. I mean, I felt awkward just being myself, but cravings came in so many waves. And on this specific medication, I had so many side effects, like side effects ranging from crying for no reason to just absolutely full blown panic attacks. And like every side effect, they eventually just went away. And saying no thanks to a drink sometimes felt like climbing a mountain. I remember specifically going to Outback Steakhouse, and I ordered a mocktail and I was trying so hard not to cave into my cravings. But after the night passed, I remember reflecting on it and I actually had a decent conversation with my mom that night. And I actually had a decent night, without alcohol, just completely not clouded. I was able to enjoy my meal. And best thing of all, I did not vomit my meal. I know that's really graphic, but still, that's the reality. But here's what was happening under the surface scientifically. Dopamine regulation. Alcohol hijacks our brain's reward system. In the early days of sobriety, dopamine levels are trying to rebalance, and that's why cravings feel so intense. But slowly, your brain relearns how to feel joy without that artificial spike. And improved hydration. Even after a few weeks, your body is less dehydrated, which is why our skin often starts to clear up. And let me tell you, my skin has never looked better. No joke. I mean, if you look at old pictures of me, I mean, I have like scratches all over my face from like literally scratching pimples, which I'm not condoning either. Just don't do it. And also, I slept so much better. I mean, alcohol interrupts REM sleep without it, you actually start getting deep restorative sleep again. And that was huge for me. I finally woke up feeling rested instead of groggy. And then 3 months in was the energy shift that I experienced. And at around 3 months, something shifted. My energy wasn't just back to baseline, it was better than before. And here's the science behind it. The liver starts repairing itself quickly. By 3 months, liver fat can drop by 15%, lowering your risk of fatty liver disease. And alcohol suppresses immune function. So by this point, your body is literally better at fighting off colds and infections. And let's talk about mental clarity, shall we? Like brain fog starts lifting because of the hippocampus, the part of the brain that is responsible for memory and learning. It actually begins to grow again after prolonged abstinence. Isn't that wild? And then 6 months came the emotional breakthroughs. At 6 months sober, I noticed the biggest emotional breakthrough. I trusted myself again not to have a drink, and it was powerful. So, studies show that 6 months of sobriety can significantly reduce your risk of heart disease and cortisol levels, the stress hormone, start leveling out. So, anxiety becomes easier to manage. And let me tell you, your mood will improve. Your brain's natural serotonin pathways heal, which means you're not relying on alcohol to feel happy. You're actually producing more consistent happiness on your own. And finally, a year sober, 365 days. Here's what I've noticed. My mornings are peaceful and not panicked. My confidence has skyrocketed more than it ever has. And I'm known to be a pretty confident individual because I proved to myself that I can keep a promise. My relationships felt more authentic. I don't feel the need alcohol to connect. And honestly, I've never been more productive or creative in my life. And this has manifested so many not only tarot reading opportunities for me, but opportunities for me to like actually do the things I want to do. And here's the science of 1 year sober. Research shows gray matter volume actually increases, helping with focus and emotional regulation. A year without alcohol reduces risks for certain alcohol related cancer, like throat and liver cancer. And financial health improves. And this one's obvious, but worth saying. I saved thousands of dollars this year by not drinking. And that's not just in like bottles of wine or bottles of vodka. I mean, that's just like, you know, late night Uber cravings like McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's. My gosh, it was embarrassing. So, what did I actually gain from this year? I'll tell you. Presence, peace, and clarity, and the ability to just show up fully for the life I used to dream about. Sobriety is isn't about what I gave up. It's about everything I've gained. So, if you're listening to this and thinking about trying it, whether it's a week, 30 days, or a whole year, remember this: every day sober is a win. You don't need to label yourself as an alcoholic. You don't need to figure out forever. And you don't even need AA. I mean, you can if you want. There's no shame in it. Just focus on today because those todays, they stack up into something absolutely life-changing. So, with that said, I want to thank you for celebrating this milestone with me. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, you don't need a drink to sparkle. You're already shining. I'll see you next time. Bye.